Hi guys, my name is Hardy and welcome to another Cloud Academy Azure webinar. In this episode, we're going to show you how to set up an Azure file backup. So the first thing you're going to want to do is log into the Azure portal. From here, you can then go into the backup vault. Once in the backup vault, you then select to add a new backup. This will then present you with a number of options on how you want to configure your backup and what you want to back up. So because this is a file level backup, at first you will need to select that it is an on-premise backup, and then that you want to back up files and folders. Then you need to click on the infrastructure, which will then open up the links to download the installation files, the installation media for the backup agent, and also the vault credentials, which will then be used to associate that backup machine to this particular backup vault. Once you've downloaded those, copy those onto the machine that you wish to protect, and then run the installation. Now during the installation, there will be a couple of options, such as where you want to install the scratch location to. This is the temporary cache location. We're just going to leave the defaults here, and we're going to let it automatically update over the internet if it needs new updates. And then we're going to let it install. Once it's finished installing, you then need to proceed to registration. So this will then associate this particular installation and virtual machine with that particular vault that we've just selected. So we point to the credential files that we've downloaded beforehand. And when we select them, we can see that it's the location and the vault name and the subscription that we are currently working in. Next, you'll then need to generate a passphrase. This passphrase is very important to be kept very safe, as this is what is then used to encrypt at rest and in transit the backup files. This is very important to keep very safe, as if the server is completely destroyed and you can no longer log on to it, you will need this to be able to restore to a new server when you rebuild it. To configure the backup schedule, you'll then need to open up the Azure backup. Now this is very similar to the Windows Server backup from previous versions, except it will back up directly into Azure. So first we will need to select Schedule a Backup. This brings up the Schedule Backup wizard. So first of all, we select the items that we want to back up. So in this case, we're going to choose to back up the entire C drive, but we don't want to back up the Windows directory. It's quite large and we don't really need that data. Next, we schedule the backup times. So we can have it to running on a daily or a weekly schedule. On a daily schedule, we can set it to run up to 3 times a day. So we're going to choose to run at 7:30 in the morning, and then at some point in the midday, about 1 o'clock, and then again in the afternoon, in the evening at 6:30. Now we can choose the retention settings. Now there's quite a lot of options. We can go quite granular with this. We can choose, for example, that we want a daily backup for every day of the month. So for the last month's worth, we want to keep the daily backups. We can then choose that we want weekly backups and how long we keep those for, and then monthly and also yearlies. So you can get quite a lot of detail, quite a lot of backup, it's quite robust. And on the weekly ones, we can then choose which day of the week we want the backup to be kept. So in this case, we're going to choose that the weekly backup should be the Friday backup, and the 7:30 in the morning one. You can choose the midday one or choose Saturday if you wanted, or any other day of the week. On the monthly, we can choose what day of the month. So we're going to say we want the first day of the month to be the monthly backup that is retained for 12 months. And the same as on the yearly, we are going to choose that we want the very first day of the year to be the yearly backup point that we keep. So in this case, we're going to choose January as the month and the first day as the day. Next, we're going to choose how to upload the backups or the initial copy. Now, if the bandwidth and the data is quite good, you don't have too much data and the bandwidth is quite good, we can just upload it automatically over the network. However, if there is a lot of data or the bandwidth isn't quite so good, you can choose to do an offline backup, which will then store it locally, and then you can upload it at a later point, and then when you have uploaded it, you can then continue the scheduled backup, and it will just link up and set up the retention as you've previously specified. So we've got quite a small amount of data and quite a reasonable bandwidth, so we're just going to choose the default of automatically over the network. So now we've got a summary page, and then we click next, it's going to create the backup schedule. So now we have a schedule created. So now when we go back on the Azure portal and we go back into the backup vault, we can now see that under File and Folders, we actually have that server and the backup items, in this case just the C drive. But of course there is no current backup or last recovery point because we haven't had an initial backup yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually perform a manual backup. So we're going to go back into the virtual machine here. I'm going to say backup now. Now at this point we can choose to keep all the defaults of the schedule, or we could choose if we wanted to omit or add a certain item because it's a one-off backup, but we're going to choose it to keep everything the same as in the schedule. Now it's going to go ahead and run the backup. First it's going to verify what it needs to back up, prepare the storage, and then it's going to upload the data and then verify it afterwards. So of course, depending on the size of the backup and the bandwidth, this can take some time. Once the job is completed, you can then go back into the portal and the backup vault, and then you can see that the last recovery point is now updated with the time that we have just done the backup. Well, thanks for watching, guys. That was how to set up an Azure file-based backup. Tune in next time. Bye!